Intimidating. The word follows you into every room before you've said a single thing. You haven't raised your voice. You haven't said anything sharp, and yet, the second you walk in, everyone gets a little more careful. A conversation goes quiet when you sit down. People choose their words more carefully around you than they do around anyone else. You've felt it. You've brushed it off. There's real psychology behind it. Here are 7 signs you intimidate people without ever meaning to. Sign 1. You don't engage in drama. And people quietly register that as a threat. Picture 2 people arguing. One raises their voice, the other doesn't. Within seconds, the room's attention shifts entirely to the quiet one because their calm is the one variable nobody can predict. Emotional chaos is the currency most social circles trade in. Underneath the outbursts and guilt trips, most of it isn't communication. It's a negotiation for control or reassurance. You never learned to play that game. Or you did once, and it cost you enough to quit. Psychologist Elaine Hatfield named this dynamic emotional contagion the way feelings spread between people, almost like a reflex. Most people catch it without noticing. You seem immune. And when someone can't infect you with their panic, they lose the thing they were unconsciously relying on to feel powerful. Psychologist James Gross, known for his research on emotion regulation, found that people who manage emotion internally are often perceived as cold by those who process everything externally. The composure is usually genuine, but not always. Sometimes it's distance, a habit built after learning that staying unreadable was safer than staying open. Sign 2. You ask real questions instead of performing conversation. Most conversations run on autopilot. How are you? Good, you. Nobody expects honesty here. They expect the ritual, because the ritual keeps things safe and shallow. You break the ritual without trying to. You ask what someone actually wants out of their life, whether they're genuinely happy or just used to their routine, what they've never told anyone. And the temperature of the conversation changes instantly. Research into how introverts process information suggests they tend to engage more reflective, slower-moving cognitive pathways, which often shows up socially as depth instead of small talk. What can look intense from the outside is frequently just someone thinking a few layers deeper than the surface. But to a person only prepared for casual exchange, depth can feel like exposure, especially when it makes them feel seen before they're ready to be. Sign 3. You read people before you say a word, and they can feel it. Some people enter a room hoping to be seen. You enter a room already seeing everyone else. The pause before someone answers a question, the laugh that doesn't quite reach the eyes, the way one person's posture changes the second a specific person walks in. Most people miss these details entirely. You catch them without trying. And here's the uncomfortable part. People can sense when they're being read, even when nothing is said out loud. When your attention lingers a beat longer than expected, it makes people more self-aware of themselves, not because of anything you've said, but because of the simple, unspoken fact that they've been fully noticed. Sign 4. Your silence is comfortable for you and deeply uncomfortable for everyone else. Most people treat a pause in conversation like an emergency. The instant it goes quiet, they rush to fill it, talking faster, over-explaining, revealing things they hadn't planned to say. Not because they suddenly feel like being honest, but because silence itself feels unbearable to sit inside. You don't share that reflex. You can let a silence stretch without needing to rescue it. You think before you speak, rather than speaking to avoid thinking, and to the person across from you. That stillness can feel oddly powerful, because while they're scrambling to manage the discomfort, you're completely at ease inside it. Studies in the Journal of Experimental Social Psychology have shown that even brief, unexpected silences can generate measurable anxiety during conversation, prompting most people to fill the gap as quickly as possible. You don't fill it. And that alone shifts who holds the power in the exchange, not because you're trying to unsettle anyone, but because your silence asks people to sit with themselves a little longer than they're used to. Sign 5. You keep your emotions controlled. And people mistake that for not caring. You feel things deeply, probably more than most people around you would guess. But somewhere along the way, you learned that letting emotion take the wheel during hard moments usually makes things worse, not better. So you slow down. You listen before reacting. You choose your words with intention, instead of letting them spill out. This is exactly where people misread you. A lot of people don't just want to be understood in an emotional moment. They want their distress mirrored back to them so they feel less alone in it. Your steadiness disrupts that expectation. To someone who relies on emotional mirroring for reassurance, calm can register as distance. But the absence of visible chaos isn't the absence of empathy. It just means you've stopped treating emotional intensity as proof of how much you care. Sign 6. You have a filter, and people sense they haven't passed it yet. Not everyone gets the same version of you. Genuine connection costs energy, trust, and emotional safety, and you're not spending those carelessly on people who haven't shown they'll handle them well. Most people feel that filter within minutes of meeting you, even without knowing why. Some respect it. Others read it as rejection used to environments where openness is the default rather than something earned. Worth sitting with, filters come from two different places. One is earned discernment, knowing from experience what real trust requires. The other is quieter avoidance, where the filter isn't protecting connection, it's preventing it. They look the same from outside. Only you know which one is running the show. Either way, a filter isn't arrogance, it's self-respect. And people without boundaries of their own are often the most intimidated by someone who has them, because your filter reminds them, without a word, that access should mean something. Sign 7. You don't need their approval, and nothing is more destabilizing than that. Most social environments run quietly on approval seeking. People edit themselves constantly, just to stay likable enough to keep their place in the group. At some point, you stopped doing that. You realized that being universally liked usually comes at the cost of being honest about who you actually are. So you chose authenticity over acceptance, and psychologically, that's one of the most disarming things a person can do. Because someone who no longer needs approval becomes very difficult to manipulate. Clinical psychologist Perpetua Neo has noted that the people others perceive as intimidating are often the ones who, without meaning to, expose everyone else's fear of not measuring up. Your presence doesn't unsettle people because you're trying to dominate the room. It unsettles them because your ease with yourself quietly reveals how much they still depend on being validated by others. Being called intimidating isn't always a compliment, and it isn't always an insult. More often, it's information. It tells you less about who you are than about what other people expected from you. When someone can't predict you, easily influence you, or fit you into the role they imagined, uncertainty takes over. And the human brain has always been cautious around uncertainty. That doesn't mean you're always right. Sometimes being hard to read protects your peace. Sometimes it keeps people at a distance who genuinely wanted to know you. The real question isn't whether people find you intimidating. It's whether the way you carry yourself reflects who you truly want to be. Because in the end, the people who matter won't be looking for someone easy to control. They'll be looking for someone who's genuinely comfortable being themselves. So, which sign sounded most like you? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoy exploring the hidden psychology behind everyday behavior, subscribe for more videos like this.